Ooh. Whoa. Whoa. Scary. My name's Chris Quinlan, and welcome to Melbourne Musos Live. Oh, perfect timing. And there you go. Oh, well, another one bites the dust. As I said, my name is Chris Quinlan, and I hope you didn't mind that dramatic opening. Oh, with breakage and all sorts of things happening. What it is, as I said, my name's Chris Quinlan. It's Melbourne Musos Live, and it's a bit of a subject that is very close to my little heart in the sense that I do love... my triggers, you see, and they're all accessible, okay? A lot of people, most people, will start with, these days, an electronic drum kit, and then as they get on, they'll, you start playing in bands, and next thing you've got an acoustic drum kit, and I know so many people who work on their electronic kit at home, because sometimes if you're living in a flat or a little small villa unit or something, it can be quite a hostile place for the beloved acoustic drum kit. And but what happens is they have, just like I do in the front room, is a drum kit ready to, an acoustic drum kit ready to rock to go out to the gig and all that. So you practice at home on the electronic, and you have a myriad of sounds, you see. And a few episodes ago, what I did was talk about access them. You've got a world, a lot of people that, I'll ask some of my students, what drum kit do you use? Drum kit number 1 on the electronic drum kit. And I said, have you tried drum kit 13, the Latin one? Have you tried the Chinese gong one? All of these kinds of things. And what happens? And they go, no, okay, try them out. And that's what this is. When I use my patches, and I'll, once again, the quick history, I triggered up my kit back in the 2009, all that, and then I went a bit nuts and all that sort of stuff. And it just opened up a whole other world. And what I'd like to talk about tonight is the practical and the possible. Okay, anyway, so what happens? And another little byline I've got is turning beats into possibilities. Okay, what can you do with it? How can you get the sounds happening? What can you do? Go with what you've got, that kind of thing. Now, Doris, the big-ass drum kit here, didn't quite start out all big or anything like that. It started out a basic kit. Then I got a pergola, and then I got the back shed. I should have a kitchen sink behind me there. All that biz, we all sort of, it starts to, there you go. But what happens is that when you're playing, you start to learn all your basic beats. Something jazzy, something like that. Now I'm going to take the triggers out for a bit and go to some normal sticks. Seeing I've lost one pair right from the outset. All right, so you might have this. Bit of a funky rock beat. But one of the things I had to do starting out was basically when I got, say, the piccolos, and I said this a few episodes, continuity, is that how am I going to use them? I've got to go over to my left-hand side. And as I so often say, who has the little popcorn snare on the left-hand side. Who has a little octopad or something like that, little trigger section, that kind of thing. I see it all the time. I just happen to have the piccolo toms. So what happens is if you've got a rock beat, if you're doing this, good old 16th note rock beat, right? So 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4. Here. You're going to flam them. Split rudiments is what I often talk about, right? Here we go. Flam single stroke roll. Flam left, right, left. Flam left, right, left. And then you build it up. And then what happens then is you start to work with your different sounds and your possibilities in the most basic of ways. You could start with the basic rock beat like this. What you could do is open the hi-hat, very basic, rock, ride cymbal, punk. Shades of Robert Hurst there. Anyway, there you go. So what happens is that you've got different sounds even with going with what you've got. This oft quote by Mr. Alan Zavod, R.I.P. There you go. But what happens if you split them? One of the things is when you've got this, I'm starting to put little accents there, all sorts of things. But off of one of Frank Zappa's albums, The Man from Utopia, We Are Not Alone. Da 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 da. Chad Wackerman on drums. So all you're doing is taking this, putting it here. One of the things that Steve Gadd used to do was split riding. You'd take that, put them here. Now I'm starting to rim shot, getting a different sound there and all this business. Now, what happens is there's the practical. There's a couple of little tips for you straight off the bat about how to get different sounds out of everything that you're doing. Even if you've got a basic rock beat, very plain, still fine. Ride cymbal, maybe remote hi-hat. So let's stick to the ride for a second. And all of a sudden what's happening is I'm starting to put the hi-hat on the offbeats. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, and you learn that very early as just 1, 2 to 3, 4 to 1, 2 to 3, 4. If you look at any of the old 60s black and white clips on YouTube and stuff, you'll always see a guy doing 2 and 4 when they're doing the basic rock beat. There you go. Oh, there you are. Now, what's happening here? There's the practicals. Now what happens, if I go back to mallets, I'm still having a little bit of a laugh about that. See you boys, I'll give you a good burial later on. Who has mums that would come in and say, listen, if you break a stick, give them to me. Don't throw them out, because I use them for the stakes in the garden, for my little rose garden. So the next thing you're walking around into the backyard, and next thing all your old drumsticks. Hello, boys! They're holding up the dandelions and the daffodils and the roses. Memories. So I'm talking about things like and possibilities are even just using the ping of destiny when you're doing a little the plane and what happened and what have you. But I started the show off being all kind of dramatic with triggers, and now I'm going to put them back in, do you see? And these particular ones are extra strings tremolo, courtesy of GarageBand. You've all got them, just look. All right. And what I have is the triggers there. Now what happens is, in the most basic ways, let me get a few absolute basics down. These are triggers. They're not weird, okay? They're new. What it is that when you're dealing with triggers, when you're dealing with an electronic drum kit, there's your drum and the trigger's underneath. All it is this is a hybrid where the trigger is on top. That's all. Get over it. Hello, audience. It's stuff as before. Now I'm going to turn it around. Dramatic. And that, my friends, is, what have I got there? A B Locrian. Now, when you have little interface units like these ones I've got here, and all that, you can program in the sounds, you see. And just like you'd have a spare channel on your little brain, the drum module, and you can program in your own special kit. You know, you might love drum kit number 3 on your electronic drum kit, but the snare drum doesn't quite do it for you, and you go flick through, oh, there's the perfect one, and you just flip out the snare and bring in sound 27 or something like that, and then you've got your little, you know, perfect homemade electronic drum kit, that kind of business. This is what we're doing here. Now what happens is that when you're actually dealing with things like this, and you start adding things like there's that. I've done many a show where I could be doing this. And someone in the band says, oh, I love that China cymbal, man. Okay. Can you put that in when I hit this chord? And I've done this before. This is like bum, ba. How are you going to do it? Mixed sticking. Right, left, right, right. Okay. Move your sticking around to get to each side. Now we're dealing with meters here. There's about 1.5 meters. Okay, how are you going to do it? You can't just get trying to lasso them, you know. All that sort of stuff. But what I'm talking about is the possibilities. So now what you've got is you've got different sounds that you might already have. And then you've got your little octopad on the side, popcorn snare. And if you trigger them up and get them going, all of a sudden something else happens. Because if you're going to sort of get into kind of, you know, a mood, you know, there's lots of moods out there. I had a bit of a look. I nearly called this episode, how many moods can you play on the drum set? You look them up, and just in pure psychological terms, there's around about 27, just to start. Okay, other sources say, oh, it's more like 40 and all that, you know. It's not just happy, sad, you know, that kind of thing. So there's lots of moods out there. Now, when you are in a position where you can start using scales, and now I'm not just talking drums, I'm talking about guitarists, pianists. Anyway, different scales will give you different moods in certain ways. Now, I said before, this is a Locrian, right? Now, one of the things that happens here, I'm trying to create a kind of a mood, and I suppose the mood is foreboding. And one of the other things, as soon as you get this idea into your head, you've got to get the chops to be able to do it. Now, in the most humblest of ways, they're not chops for chops' sake. I got this idea, like I have tremolo strings is what I've got there. And if I'm going to go, seems to be the theme, right? Just going up the Locrian. Then left hand. What am I doing? Right, left, left. Bring it up. Variate. Now, back to the woodshed. You got to do your practice. Then you use timbre. I could have the softer mallet side. The ones I piffed over there before, they were softer still. And then you can use a little bit of wood for the right hand. Bring out, you know, I nearly said bring out the dead. Bring out the dead. Monty Python, sorry. Turn it around. See, look, the attack goes away. Oop, ooh. ADSR. I've done a whole show on ADSR. Attack, decay, sustain, release. Okay, it's how they program synthesizers and all that sort of business. And so on it goes. We can do it with mallets, wood, triggers, all sorts of things. Do you see? And there's that. Now what happens is that I'm using the Locrian mode, and it serves me well to explain quickly what modes are. You have your typical major scale, okay, of which the formula is tone, tone, semitone, tone apart. Tone, tone, semitone. A lot of people just go tone, tone, semitone, tone, 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 and all the kids get mixed up. But they're two tetrachords. Look it up. Tone, tone, semitone. Tone is a tone is, if you're thinking guitar, 2 frets, and a semitone is 1 fret. And then you have tone, tone, semitone. Then there's a tone apart. That's the first tetrachord. Then you have a tone apart, and then you do it again. Tone, tone, semitone. You see? There you go. Then you have your do, re, mi. Oh, ho, ho. Then what goes on is that if you think of that like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 as steps, I'm leaving out the octave. But then you decide to go from the second step. Okay, so you go 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1. And then the third step, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1, 2, 3. And so on it goes. You have, in order, you have the Ionian mode, which is just the major scale, Dorian, Phrygian, Lydian, Mixolydian, Aeolian, and Locrian, which is this one here, you see. Look it up. I'm sort of teaching music theory from behind a drum kit. Very weird. Okay, so that's what goes on. Now when you take that, and I'm going to change it up now. Let me see. How about I go Dorian? Okay, so I'll go to this one. Okay. And this is, as a matter of fact, C Dorian, right? bit happier. Same ideas. Now what am I doing here? I'm splitting myself in half and I'm starting to go down the track of contrapuntal melody here. Okay, who swallowed a dictionary, Chris? If you are going to think like a band and like if you're thinking like a piano player, pretty much like Terry Bozzio does, he treats his humongous kid. He's trying to prove a point with it, by the way. But what happens is that the right hand, when you're playing piano, there's your chords and there's your melody, usually, that kind of thing. Fairly straightforward. It's how you basically learn piano. What we have with drums is usually our lower sounding end of the drum kit is on our right, you see. So we might use the mallet side to be a little bit supportive of the melodic side, you see. So here's the timbre once again. Take that tap away, ADSR, attack, decay, sustain, release. I could keep on going with that, but what I'm going to do instead is just explain that to you. What was I doing? You see, all of a sudden I've got that as an upper pedal point. A pedal when you have a repeating note. It's named pedal because in church organ, that kind of thing, you would have bass pedals with your feet, and you would have the pedal tone, that kind of thing. And then you play over the top, and there you go. Now, if I take the triggers out again for a second, what was I doing? I was doing this. Turn it around. Pretty woman, it's a soul beat, pretty woman. I'm taking something practical, like the good old soul beat, turn it into opposites. Instead of that there, I'm putting it here. And instead of that there, I'm making it Hail Caesar! Sorry, I can't. I nearly conjured up Mel Brooks again. Now, there I am there. What happens if I did that? Do you see? Upper pedal instead of the lower pedal. Change. Slam 'em. What I'm doing now is starting to get into other things, you see, like splashing the hatting, splash hats and all that stuff, and that kind of business there. Now what I should do right now is take a little breather from this, because I hope you enjoyed the show. My name's Quinlan.
now for a nice glass of...
Can you get in?
Got it.
Good.